Do, 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 do. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello. Alright, alright, alright. Let's begin the stream. Shall we do again? Do, 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 do. Let's sing some random ID. Are you ready now? Hmm. Alright, please excuse me for a minute. Alright, now, number one. A villainess who resembles a mean, bun-haired grandma who, with a walking cane, who was quite the wrestling champion back in the day. Her true arts is the ability of old age, which is how she went undefeated for so long due to the fact that no human can beat old age. At max level, she can even age things in the dust that she touches rapidly. Yeah, all right, now, in Norse mythology, there was, a god that, tried to wrestle, old age, due to a challenge from a giant. Yeah, they were unable to beat it, yeah, because nobody can beat old age. That's kind of how inspired, what was inspired, that inspired this villain, yeah. Anyway, next one. A poor miner's kid who came from a troubled and struggling poor family with 11 other siblings who gained the power of mole physiology. Then, which made them an expert miner, or at least that's what, their dad expected him to be, but they wanted to be a hero instead, so they went to hero school. Kind of a little bit behind their back. Yeah, I'm kind of interested in, I'm doing all sorts of things like that, yeah. After all, the power of true arts has various, effects on, all sorts of things. And there's all sorts of different ones, yeah. Anyway, next one, next one, next one, next one. Alright, calm down, yeah? A villain who looks like a bat-winged Cupid-like entity with a red bloody halo overhead and snake-like hair and a beautiful feminine face and an ugly scale-covered lizard-like body. She fires arrows that controls people's emotional bonds and loves with the purpose of disrupting emotional bonds and loving relationships for a Starday. Now, Starday's, one of the Ascended. She's like an evil, corrupt love goddess, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah, by the way, this is kind of inspired by the evil Cupids that were in, Spiral 1. Granted, I made them quite a bit different. I remember talking about them being succubus-like, so, yeah. Anyway, next one. A creature that looks like a disco ball-clad, robotic afro-clad, dancing queen with a large, platform shoes and parachute pants from a 1970s disco party. She's an object spirit given life as the life of the party back then and attached to a disco ball at an old and abandoned disco hall. Oh, yeah, alright now. Alright now. Let's see, maybe like fading optimism or, being grossly out of style, but, still wanting to be the life of the party and kind of going mad from that, maybe? Something like that would be pretty good, yeah. Alright now. Alright now, next one. A petty thief who, due to an odd mutation due to, true arts, obtained a clear glass-like body that allows him to render himself invisible, as well as command and manipulate glass. He was just a thief who wanted to get a good payday using his abilities to steal, but trouble with the law led to him being involved by the criminal underworld and to shadier and much darker jobs that weighed heavily on his soul. And his real goal was only basically he wanted respect to a life of abuse, basically. Alright. Oh no, he's like the Hollow Man. Or like the Invisible Man a little bit, only with more glass manipulation. Anyway, next one. A magical girl with the power of silk cloth physiology and does not only can fly but use pheromones, but can also, command and manipulate strings of silk. Her family are former wealthy merchants who fell in hard times, and thus, as a household, had very high and impossible expectations on her that left her with confidence issues. And they enrolled her into a hero school, expecting her to be a top-rated student, but she was sent to the psychic class. Oh no. And the money's gonna teach her how to, have some confidence, yeah. Anyway, next one. Alright, now. I like implement physiology. It seems like a pretty cool ability, yeah. Alright, now, next one. A magical knight hero who comes from a family who are adherents to protagonism, though he has doubts and due to his religious upbringing at first comes off as judgmental and dismissive of others, and has some views that were considered bigoted, which left him isolated. He wanted to be a great hero for the goddess of creation at first, but was demoted to the psychic class due to having purely defensive skills that allow him to generate barriers. Alright, now. Yeah, it's sort of, have you guys ever seen that one Banished from the Heroes Party, anime? Yeah, this is sort of like Fan if you were, more defensive, really. and a little bit less extreme, a little bit less of a psychopath, really. Yeah, kind of reminds me of that one, manga I saw where, the main character was basically, had purely defensive magic and was kind of looked down upon it, but his barriers were like super OP. I mean, of course they were. There's all sorts of stories like that. Anyway. Next idea. A rose-themed supervillain henchman with a large nose and is a former reject from us. Oh, come on. All right, I have to read this again. Okay, sorry. A nose-themed supervillain henchman who has a large nose and is a former reject from the school hero set up by the Big League Association, returns to a life of crime after years of humiliation, being forced into the sidekick role, which led to him being abused by an arrogant quote-unquote hero. He uses a troid of snot, which while disgusting, is a very useful ability to be sure. His current boss was from a similar situation on the Big League Association and sees him as an asset rather than a friend or an ally. Yeah, have you guys ever seen, One Piece? There was a, snot. There was, a fruit that, basically was snot. Yeah, so I thought, why not do something like that? I nearly said rose because I read nose as, an R instead of an. I'm sorry about that. You know how it is on the internet, that tends to happen. Alright, next one. A bully character with a large, intimidating, muscular who is a very large, intimidating, muscular master of the beetle who has a physiology and proportional strength to of a rhinoceros beetle. Due to his physical strength and durability, he was often able to intimidate and threaten weaker students to get what he wants out of them, and often mistreats those he deems as weaker and inferior to himself. And often treats those he deems inferior or weaker to himself poorly, especially those with lesser charge. However, repeated losses and humiliation, despite him being favored by the staff for his power, at first, led to his demotion as a sidekick class, which he doesn't take well at first, but he eventually mellows out, yeah. We're gonna have somebody who's a bit like, yeah. We're having a redemption arc, yeah. Yeah, we're having a bit of a redemption arc. It's possible, yeah. We can do whatever we want with these characters, yeah. They're my characters, I can do whatever I want with them, yeah. Alright, now, next one. Yeah, let's just say that, the Big Billy Association kind of has a little bit of favoritism issues, especially with, powerful offensive true arts. So, yeah, there is kind of a little bit of, not very nice stuff with it, yeah. Kind of very typical, isekai-inspired stuff, really. Although it's more of a superhero school, so it's... actually, I would say it's more like, Sky High. Have you guys ever seen that Disney movie? Yeah, Sky High? It's a bit more like that, yeah. That's what I should say, yeah. If you guys ever see the movie, which I'm pretty sure you can see easily, you'll probably understand what I'm talking about, right? Anyway, next idea. It's alright now, next idea. A mad scientist working in a robotics lab and is the leader of a company who develops technology and an AI known as Golem. Despite having a good job and lots of money, he can't get over his ego and due to his failures he had back when he was a former villain and still seeks world domination. Thus, Kurt developed Golem. The Golem cores using ancient magic blended with science. His ultimate creation is Talos, a beautiful android girl that he's been working on for years to build the ultimate robotic creation to lead his army, but she has other plans and instead leaves him and becomes a hero instead. Yeah. I will say, Talos' appearance, kind of is kind of a little inspired by, Cosmos. Of course, alright now. Let's say that Golem is basically, like a robotics and like a high-end, robotics company that's, heavily investing in stuff like AI and all that. I thought it'd be a good idea, given the current, landscape. Yeah, they're kind of one of the evil, companies that's kind of out there in, the lore. Just kind of one of them, really. Among many. Anyway, thank you for listening, and I hope you had plenty of fun. Remember to fly like mine, train like a man for your stuff dreams are made of. Alright now. Alright now. Whoa, man. What a whirlwind. Alright now. Goodbye.